Have you ever stepped outside, felt a sudden gust of wind smack you right in the face, and wondered, where exactly did that just come from? Well, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to do something pretty amazing today. We are decoding the invisible forces that literally drive the weather we experience every single day. We're going to take the invisible, make it visible, and completely break down this massive, globe-spanning engine that creates the wind.
It's a super relatable question, isn't it? We feel it all the time, but what actually makes the wind blow? What turns perfectly still air into a nice, gentle breeze or, a howling gale? Well, it's not magic, it's physics. And by the end of our time today, you'll be able to step outside, feel that breeze, and perfectly visualize exactly what the atmosphere is doing right above your head.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, the engine, heat and pressure. Second, the forces shaping the wind. Third, global circulation. Fourth, local winds. And finally, how wind actually creates our weather.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the engine, heat and pressure.
At its absolute most fundamental level, all wind originates from one really simple fact. The sun heats the Earth's surface unevenly. When the sun bakes two side-by-side areas differently, the air right above them also heats unevenly. The warmer air expands, right? It becomes lighter or less dense. Now, because it's less dense, the cooler, heavier air around it is actually pulled down to the ground by gravity. This heavy air literally undercuts the warm air, forcing that warm air upward. It's kind of like how oil is forced to the top when you mix it with water. This rising action creates what we call an upward convective current.
And this sets up a continuous convective cell. You've got warm, light air rising up and cool, dense air sinking down to replace it. But here's the kicker. As that cool air rushes in horizontally along the surface to fill the gap left by the rising warm air, that horizontal flow is exactly what we call wind. In meteorology, it's called advection. And as long as that uneven heating keeps up, this invisible convective loop just keeps on turning.
Now, this temperature difference creates a pressure difference, which brings us to the absolute core driver of the wind, the pressure gradient force. Basically, high pressure literally pushes air toward areas of lower pressure to try and balance things out. On weather maps, meteorologists draw these lines of equal pressure called isobars. The rule of thumb here is absolutely crucial but super simple. The closer those isobars are packed together, the stronger that pushing force is, and therefore the faster the wind blows. If pressure changes really fast over a short distance, you're going to get some seriously strong winds.
Okay, moving on to section 2, forces shaping the wind.
So the wind doesn't just shoot in a straight, simple line from high to low pressure. I mean, if our Earth was completely stationary, it would. Because the equator is hot and the poles are cold, we'd essentially just have two massive predictable convective currents. Warm air would rise at the equator, travel to the poles, sink, and blow straight back along the ground. But, as we know, our Earth is not sitting still. It's spinning, and that spin distorts absolutely everything.
Imagine you've got a piece of chalk, and you drag it in a perfectly straight line from the center of a spinning record out to the edge. To someone watching from above, your chalk moved straight, but on the spinning record itself, that line traces out as a curve. That is the Coriolis force in action. Because Earth is a rotating sphere, air moving across it appears to be deflected. Up in the northern hemisphere, it gets deflected to the right. So as wind tries to rush from high to low pressure, the Coriolis force keeps nudging it right, eventually causing the wind to blow parallel to those isobar lines rather than straight across them. Wild, right?
But wait, there's a third and final ingredient here. Friction. The surface of our planet is pretty rough. We've got mountains, forests, huge cities. All this terrain friction drags on the wind, slowing it down near the ground. And here is where the physics gets incredibly neat. The Coriolis force actually depends directly on wind speed, so slowing the wind down weakens that rightward deflection. With the Coriolis force weakened by friction, the pressure gradient force wins the tug-of-war just a bit, causing our surface winds to angle across the isobars toward lower pressure instead of blowing perfectly parallel to them. This exact mechanism helps create those infamous regional winds, like the hot, dry Santa Ana winds out in California.
All right, section 3. Let's zoom way out to the global circulation.
When we combine pressure, the Coriolis force, and friction on a massive planetary scale, things get pretty intense. As air rises at the equator and moves north, the Coriolis force aggressively turns it right. By the time that air hits roughly 30 degrees latitude, it's been turned so much that it's flowing almost completely west to east. This causes a massive pileup of air in the atmosphere, a semi-permanent high-pressure belt. Now, all that piled-up air has to go somewhere, so it sinks and flows north and south along the surface. The Coriolis force deflects these surface flows yet again, giving us the great global wind belts.
You've got the trade winds down near the equator, the prevailing westerlies in the mid-latitudes, and the polar easterlies way up north. This is the big macro-level engine driving our global climate.
Let's bring it back down to Earth for Section 4, local and small-scale winds.
Stepping down from the planetary level, the actual daily winds you feel are often shaped by local geography, like coastlines and mountains. Mountains are fascinating for this. During the day, the sun bakes the mountain slope, warming the air right against it. This warm air naturally rises up the valley walls, giving us a daytime valley wind. But at night, things flip. The slope cools off super fast. The dense, cold air gets incredibly heavy and literally flows downhill like water, creating a mountain wind. Sometimes this cold, heavy air spilling down the slopes gets incredibly powerful. We call these katabatic winds. A famous example you might know is the Chinook wind, which spills dramatically down the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains.
Now, if you live anywhere near the coast, you've definitely felt this next one. Water is incredibly transparent, and it's constantly churning, so it absorbs a massive amount of the sun's heat without its actual temperature changing very much. Land, on the other hand, only absorbs heat right in the top few inches of dirt. This means land heats up way faster than the ocean during the day and cools down way faster at night. So during the day, the baking hot land warms the air above it, making it rise. The cooler, denser air from over the ocean rushes in to fill the void, and there is your classic, refreshing daytime sea breeze. At night, the whole process just entirely reverses into a land breeze.
The really crucial takeaway here is that a sea breeze doesn't just cool you off while you're sitting on the beach, it actually acts exactly like a miniature cold front pushing inland. As that cool, heavy ocean air undercuts the warm air over the land, it violently forces that warm air up. When the sea breeze front passes over you, temperatures can plummet by 15 to 20 degrees in minutes. Plus, if that rise in warm air is holding enough moisture, this localized boundary can spark massive afternoon thunderstorms. This is literally a daily occurrence in places like the Florida Peninsula.
Finally, Section 5, how wind creates weather. Let's connect the dots.
Let's tie all of these invisible forces together so you can actually understand the weather outside your window right now. Whenever you look at a weather map, you always see those big, bold H's and L's for high and low pressure systems. Thanks to our good friend the Coriolis force, combined with the slowing drag of surface friction, air doesn't just flow straight from the high to the low. Instead, we see wind spiraling clockwise and spiraling outward away from high-pressure systems. Meanwhile, it spirals counterclockwise and inward toward low-pressure systems.
And the direction of that spiral dictates your weather. Think about a low-pressure system for a second. Air is spiraling inward, right? Converging from all sides. Well, it can't go down into the dirt, so it has absolutely nowhere to go but up. A low is a zone of rising air. On the flip side, a high-pressure system is where air is spiraling outward, or diverging. To replace all that air spreading out along the ground, new air from high up in the atmosphere has to sink downward. So a high is a zone of sinking air.
This brings us to a fundamental law of physics, the rule of mass continuity. Basically, air mass can't just pile up endlessly. It has to go somewhere. As that converging air at a low-pressure center gets forced upward, it cools down. And as it cools, the invisible water vapor in it condenses into clouds, and eventually, precipitation falls out of the sky. This is exactly why a falling barometer, which tells you low pressure is approaching, is the ultimate harbinger of rainy, nasty weather. On the flip side, as air sinks down in a high-pressure system, it actually warms up. That warming causes clouds to completely evaporate, leaving you with beautiful, clear blue skies.
So you now know that wind isn't just air randomly moving around us. It is a highly structured, physics-driven engine, constantly seeking planetary balance. It's shaped by the Earth's rotation, dragged by friction, and it directly dictates whether you're going to need sunglasses or an umbrella today. So next time you step outside and feel a breeze against your cheek, stop for a second and ask yourself, is this air spiraling out of a clear blue high, or is it rushing inward, fueling a distant storm? The invisible engine is always running right above us, and now you hold the keys to actually see it.